Look, there aren't a lot of good PvE co-op RPGs out there. Hell, I don't think that there are a lot of VR co-op games in general that exist, but I may have found one in Karnage Chronicles. As a disclaimer, I did receive keys to try this game for free with me and my friends, but you can always be rest assured that will not sway my opinion. My opinions are still my own, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Also know that you can still play Karnage Chronicles solo and still have a great time, but my experiences in recording this video and getting content for it were primarily in co-op, so I'm going to be focusing a lot on that. But all of the basic mechanics, features, and all that are pretty much the same, regardless of if you're playing it single player or co-op. So what is Karnage Chronicles? Why should you care? And is this going to be a game for you? Let's find out! In Karnage Chronicles, you play as a Merkwraith, an undying knight barred from Death's domain and cursed to eternal servitude for sins committed eons ago. It takes place in an RPG universe full of monsters, traps, treasure, and more. I admittedly, unfortunately, haven't been able to pay too much attention to the story because my friends would either talk through the dialogue, and there's quite a bit of dialogue, or they would skip it and go have fun without me, giving me FOMO and pressuring me to skip as well. But from what I've gathered so far in my about 4 hours of playthrough, you have to find your purpose as you don't really know who you are, why you were resurrected, and who your creators are. Dungeons are their own instance that you need to clear or find certain items in order to progress. There will be checkpoints you can activate in them so that if you ever need to leave via town scroll or if you die, you'll spawn back at your last checkpoint in that dungeon. It'll stay in the same state you left it so monsters won't respawn. However, the game is tricky in the sense that as you progress, sometimes monsters won't just spawn in front of you, but may also come at you from behind, so keep your wits about you. I played this game with the Valve Index and the Knuckle controllers, although everyone from our party had a different headset controller setup. We had one with a Vive headset and two with Oculus Rift headsets. With the Knuckles, I had no issues with anything in the game. Karnage Chronicles does not support finger tracking, although I didn't feel it was necessary as you didn't have to keep gripping your weapon in order to hold on to it, and grabbing items in the environment was literally just a swipe of the hand. Speaking of teleport, you have a couple of different options for locomotion. You've got your smooth movement, but also a teleport option if you prefer, and various degree settings if you prefer a snap turn over smooth. There are two different classes you can choose from in the game, Warrior and Archer. Both have their own types of melee and ranged weapons so that you don't feel so locked in with your choice. For obvious reasons, warriors do more damage with their swords, and you can choose to go sword, 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 shield, or for ranged, your option is a really cool crossbow that you crank to reload. Archers do more damage with their drawstring bows, but for melee, up-close encounters, they can use daggers and have their own smaller shields as well. For melee, you really do need to swing hard in order for your hits to land. Karnage Chronicles has an anti-wiggle system, meaning that just by gently poking an enemy, you won't do any damage to it. The velocity of your swing defines the damage you do to your enemies. Enemy AI in this game is actually obnoxiously smart. They can dodge arrows and block incoming melee attacks pretty successfully. When playing in a group, some strategy was actually required at times as who would tank and who would strike from behind. Giggity! Enemies come in all different types and forms. You've got various types of melee, ranged, explosive, and of course, bosses. I won't spoil too much of the bosses for you, but defeating them is especially satisfying. Another important aspect of RPGs, of course, is the loot. You can get loot in many ways, finding it in the environment, looting it off dead enemies, and buying it in the shop. One important thing to note with co-op is that while gold is shared among everyone, loot is not. So whoever picks it up first gets said item in their inventory. However, you can take things out of your inventory and drop them or hand them to others. Besides weapons and armor, other item types that you can find or buy in Karnage Chronicles include health items such as food or potions, stat boosting items, bag increasing, and so much more. You can even mine in the game if you have the appropriate pickaxe for the right node, although there is no crafting in the game. What you mine can only be sold to the shop for more gold. Like I mentioned earlier, I've only played for about 4 hours, but so far I've come across 2 different shops. One you have access to in the beginning, then another one later features even more upgraded items. It's here you can purchase upgraded weapons and armor, various health items, power-ups, and upgrades. It's good practice to remember to stop by between at least each dungeon area, but you can access it at any time with a town scroll if needed. Your home base, so to speak, also features a stash in which you can store items. You can also access portals to other towns/shops once you've unlocked them. The inventory system for this game is really great and honestly one of the best I've seen for VR. You access it by selecting your belt, which also shows your HP, allows you to access game settings, co-op inviting, and more. If you find it gets in the way during combat, you can hide it with the press of a button. You get quite a few slots to begin with, but you can purchase upgrades for even more space and different slots in the various stores you'll come across. Another genius idea is the weapon sets. You have 3 of them, so you can put in whatever combination of weapons you want. Then when you're in combat, you can swap between them on the fly. I found this especially handy when starting off attacking at range, but then needing to swap to sword and shield when enemies start closing the gap. Keep in mind though, you may want one of the slots to be weapon free in order to be able to use certain items like town scrolls. Co-op in this game is absolute madness and I love it. Max player amount is 4 and you have the option of turning friendly fire on or off. For the entertainment value, we decided to have friendly fire on, which meant most of the time we were probably inflicting the most damage on each other, but hey, that's what friends are for. You can choose to either play with random people in a public lobby, or you can set it to be friends only, so only friends from your Steam or Oculus friends list can find your room. I should also note here that crossplay is not possible, meaning people playing on the Steam version can only play with other Steam users, Oculus with other Oculus people, etc. The monster strength and spawn numbers change based on the amount of people playing. We started off with 4, but eventually when one had to drop out, we had 3 players and there was a noticeable difference. Interestingly enough, players can interact with other players' weapons, though this seems to happen only some of the time. For example, I could reload others' crossbows and draw their bows for them. I'm not sure what advantage this would have in battle, but it was a cool little thing to discover. When shot with arrows, you can slap them away or pull them out and throw them back at your enemy, but if you have a friend nearby, they can actually do this for you too. Friends can also feed each other health items, so if your friend is low health but has no food, just shove some food in their face. There was only one bug we came across where sometimes if someone would crash, usually Steam VR or hardware related, not related to the game, they would have trouble rejoining our lobby because they would no longer be able to see it on their end for some reason, causing us to have to remake the room. This happened regardless of if we were just in the main lobby area or in a dungeon and didn't happen very often. It was also super easy to just recreate a lobby and have people rejoin, but I felt that this was something I should note in case anyone else comes across this issue. Overall, I was extremely pleased with Karnage Chronicles. Like I mentioned earlier, we played for about 4 hours, but it seems like there's still a lot more we have to explore. And that's pretty impressive, considering a lot of story/PvE games in VR usually only last like an hour or 2. I think Nordic Trolls absolutely nailed it with the game's UI, the inventory system's easy to navigate, and the dungeons and monsters are all different and interesting. If you have been wanting a really good VR RPG, especially one that features co-op, I highly recommend you pick this up right now. You can purchase Karnage Chronicles on Steam or on the Oculus Rift store. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there just aren't a lot of VR co-op games out there. I would actually really like to be able to make a video compiling a bunch of them together, a bunch being like, what, maybe 5 or so. But if you have any recommendations on really good VR co-op, specifically PvE games that you have tried and that you love, please let me know in the comments below and I would love to try them if I haven't already. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy videos like this and other VR tutorials, and make sure to hit that bell notification because even subscribers may not see new videos as they come up. Thank you, YouTube. If you need more VR and content creation tips and tricks, I do have a Patreon page that I post on once a week, and all the money from the subscriptions go back towards this channel to help me be able to create more awesome stuff and teach you guys how to do some cool things in VR, so thank you. As always, keep on creating and never lose that drive to improve. I'll see you on the next one.
Did you find out what we can do? Did you see what we can do with arrows?
Oh, he doesn't know, I don't think.
Oh, no. Wow, oh, one at a time, please!
I've been...
This was a mistake.
Did I get myself?